नमस्ते। वेलकम टू अर्बन चैटराटी। और आज हमारे साथ फिर से दीप हलदार हैं, जर्नलिस्ट हैं और बंगाल इलेक्शन पे इनकी नई किताब बंगाल 2021 एन इलेक्शन डायरी इज अ मस्ट रीड फॉर द अपकमिंग बंगाल इलेक्शन। सो दीप, वेलकम टू द शो।
Thank you, Avinav. Thank you for having me here again.
So we will talk in English, but we'll also try to bring some points in Hindi because there are many people who want us to talk in Hindi so that
Right,
they also get an insight as to what is happening. So
right.
tell me one thing. You have been traveling extensively in Bengal over the past several months. What exactly do you see on the ground when it comes to the political preferences being changed as media is reporting?
Right. So one thing, Avinav, there's a lot of talk like it has been happening in recent elections or wave elections. So I closed the book around September last year because I had to give it to the publisher for editing and then publishing. But I felt a wave, but I won't say it's a pro BJP wave. Rather, it was a very strong anti Trinamool Congress government wave, anti Mamta wave. And there's a interesting conversation I had with around that same time with Bengal BJP President Mr. Dilip Ghosh. I told him that in the last assembly elections also in Bengal, there was a lot of resentment against the Trinamool Congress government. But at the end, in the slog over, so to say, Mamta Banerjee managed to distance herself in a certain way from the failings of her government and managed to convince voters that you vote for me. If I have done wrong, if my government has done wrong, give me another term, I'll correct it. So I asked Mr. Dilip Ghosh that would it be possible for her to do it this time as well, somehow separate herself from the charges against her government. He said that no, that time has passed. This time, the voters are not going to fall for any such gimmick. This time, Mamata Banerjee won't be able to separate herself from the government and appeal to voters to vote for her. Like you see some of the Trinamool campaign, Bengal's daughter, and appealing to Bengali pride. So lot of it, and now the wheelchair, a lot of it is centered around herself. But it was Dilip Ghosh's the contention that this time all those things won't work because people are so fed up of her and the government, so they're not going to separate her from the government. So I felt what you asked me, I felt a very strong anti-Trinamool Congress government wave, which of course, since BJP is there in such a huge way, and apart from their promises, and apart from the fact that they have been working the ground for a while, and much before them the RSS has been there, which they would perhaps reap the benefit of.
But that was back in September. What is the
Yeah.
situation now? You were in Bengal, I think, last week as
Yes.
well.
I was. Yeah. I'm trying to go to Bengal every weekend. I would say it's very risky to say this thing now because I think May too would know. But I would say that there is a very strong resentment against the government, and Ms. Banerjee continues. I'll tell you there are small indicators sometimes from images and videos that you see. There was this video that had come up a while back of this Trinamool Congress woman leader who was heard telling voters that in a very sweet voice that you have mothers and daughters in your homes, so be careful who you vote for. So that came under a lot of, I don't know whether you heard this. So it was a story. It was blown up by the local press that being a woman, how can she talk to voters like that? Now, the reason to do it is to instill fear in the minds of voters and to force them to vote a certain way. Now, today I saw a video, it must be very recent, like last evening or evening before, of the same leader, in her constituency. And while she's passing by voters, somebody from the back, you can't see her in the video, says Jai Shri Ram. So she
Yeah.
smiles and says, "Not it's become very popular." So she says, "No, not Jai Shri Ram. It's Joy Bangla, which is the Trinamool slogan." But and when she says that, and when she moves away, everybody starts chanting Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram. And the lady who initially said it, she chants Jai Shri Ram in a louder voice. Now, this, Avinav, happens when the fear of the of a particular party, and especially the party in power, goes away. Because it's a very local thing. I mean, this is perhaps the constituency of this particular politician. She would remember faces, but the fact that this particular person felt that she will not hold back anymore, and she's going to chant what she has to chant, which is not digestible to the particular politician in question, shows that people are willing to welcome something else, welcome a change. So I think the strong anti incumbency is still there.
Yeah,
but as you know, election depends on a variety of factors, and those factors keep changing. Yeah.
लेकिन ये जो एक बात बार बार आती है, हमेशा देखिए ममता बनर्जी भी बोलती हैं यूपी बिहार को लोगों को वहां पे खींचा जा रहा है इन वेरी डेरोगेटरी मैनर. सो यूपी बिहार के लोग ये सोचते हैं जितनी हिंसा तो हमारे चुनाव में नहीं होती है, इनफैक्ट यूपी में तो नहीं के बराबर होती है, बंगाल में उसे इतनी ज्यादा हिंसा कैसे होती है कि लोग डर रहे हैं नेता से, लोग वोट नहीं कर पा रहे हैं, मर्डर कर दिए जा रहे हैं, इस तरीके से अटैक्स हो रहे हैं. आप देखिए हमेशा अटैक हो रहे हैं कैंपेन के समय में. ऐसा तो बिहार तक में नहीं होता है, यूपी में तो ना के बराबर होता है. तो ये क्या डायनामिक्स है कि बंगाल में इतनी हिंसा क्यों होती है?
This calls for, I think it needs somebody like a top researcher like you to go to Bengal and examine it. But Bengal has had a history of political violence, and extremely violent political movements. I mean, I was talking to Aaj Tak today, and they were discussing Naxalbari. Don't forget that entire Naxal movement started from Naxalbari in West Bengal. And not only was the movement violent, the way it was quashed. If any government were to do it today, I don't know what the press will do. I mean, there were custodial rapes and third-degree tortures, and something called the midnight knock, where the cops would come in the middle of the night to knock at your door, and you don't even have to be a Naxal. You can even be a Naxal sympathizer. You'll be dragged out of your home. Your body will be found in some dark lane by the end of the week. Horrible stories, not just of the violent nature of the Naxal movement, but also how it was quashed by the Siddharth Sankara government. So, and then, the left came to power in 77. You know what happened in 78, 79. I wrote a book on it, Maricchapi massacre, and it was just one massacre, horrific, but it was just one massacre. There were massacres after massacres that the left did, right up to Nandigram. The violence in Nandigram was horrible, rapes and, police firing. Unfortunately, Mamata Banerjee, who should be credited, no matter what happens on May 2, for being a very strong opposition leader and taking so many blows from the left, rather literally, she withstood that, and she finally managed to topple the left and come to power. Unfortunately, the violence didn't stop, apart from many other things which shouldn't have been there with Mamata, with a new government. So, I mean, there are 140 plus deaths that have happened from the BJP side, workers being found hanging from trees, being hacked to death, threats of rape constantly, that old woman with battered face who died. So I don't know what propels political parties to, across the line, to indulge in such violence. But Bengal has had a history of violence which is intensified during elections.
Yeah. लेकिन बदनाम काउ बेल्ट होती है.
बदनाम काउ बेल्ट होती है.
Maybe because we have Bahubalis like Mukhtar Ansari.
Yes. So I think we couch it well. I think the Bengali hypocrisy knows how to couch it well.
Oh my goodness. Now you will be target of the troll. But in your book, you mentioned lots of interesting points. You also mentioned something about that in Bengal is many places is BJP versus BJP as well. So because BJP has imported so many people from outside the party, there is a problem between the old workers and the new entrants, and also the RSS people have been working for decades on ground. So could you please elaborate upon that?
So this was a particular instance. So I could have written it was a hard chapter for me to write up, because I could have written an easier chapter titled TMC versus TMC, because defection from the Trinamool Congress to the BJP had started. So it would have been easier for me to write a chapter on TMC versus TMC and how the rise of Bhaipo, as the BJP calls him, Mamta's nephew, has sort of forced several old timers to quit the party and come to the BJP. Instead, I chose to write it because I had a specific, I saw it firsthand when I went to Thakur Nagar, the Motua Den, where I saw that Shantanu Thakur, who's the MP from there, there was a delegation of BJP, VHP, and RSS workers with a delegation with a printed letter and with signs, against a local BJP leader. So I was very surprised that somebody has, so many BJP workers have approached on a Sunday their MP to complain against a leader, and there was a whole list of complaints of his misdemeanors. So I found that extremely fascinating. So instead of spending the day with Shantanu Thakur, which I had planned, I decided to roam around the village and talk to people and see what this is about. So what I found was, like you said, that a lot of BJP old timers, also people from the RSS and the VHP who work on the ground, who are not happy with so many people from the TMC coming over, and they are not convinced that these people will even sort of adopt to the ideology of the BJP. There have been allegations of, in this particular instance that I mentioned in Thakur Nagar, of people who have come from TMC to the BJP of being linked to cow smuggling. So this gentleman was telling me that you are taking people, but these are the same people who when they were in other party, used to do cow smuggling. And now how will he sort of come here and overnight, changed into a Gaur Sevak, and it's bizarre. But there was a Dilip Ghosh interview that I saw, where he said, look, when a party expands at such a fast rate, you will have to take in people. Okay, and there will be bad apples that will come into the tukri. But then with time, some people will adopt your ideology, some will not be able to, and then you have to throw them away. But you can't stop the expansion of a party, thinking that there might be a few bad apples.
Yeah, the BJP in Bengal is not so big that there are factions and those group infights going on, which basically tells that you have attained a critical mass.
Yes.
Okay.
So you need a very able administrator to sort of sift through all these differences and finally sort of retain what is acceptable.
Yes. There's a question which everyone is asking. It seems to us that the BJP is sweeping at least the non-Kolkata, non-urban area in Bengal. But many people are saying, what about the Kolkata region? Because if I'm not wrong, that region controls around 90 seats in the Legislative Assembly, the wider Kolkata region.
Yeah, but I would counter that, because on Twitter and even in my conversations, I'm getting a sense that even Kolkata may surprise. So this idea, which even I have written, that BJP won't do well in and around Kolkata, may not be quite true, because people may not be so vocal, because there's the Bhadralok crowd that is there in WhatsApp groups and on Facebook and Twitter. But people are afraid of being judged. But I think there's a sense that even certain seats from Kolkata, when the results come out, will shock people who are saying that, people have traditionally said, including me, that Kolkata won't vote for BJP.
What about BJP's Bhadralok mascot, Swapna Dasgupta? Will he win from Tarikeshwar?
Very tough. I have not been there, so I don't know. But there was what I heard from Kolkata and elsewhere. It's not as if he was not accepted. There was a sense that he's very Bhadralok, very erudite, and very Delhi in a certain sense. But I think after he went to Tarikeshwar, I think it's not as if he was rejected by the voters, So I didn't get that sense. So it may not be a shock for him, but we don't know. It's very difficult to sort of predict this.
What I'm asking is that because we see the cracks within the Bhadralok itself. So a section of Bhadralok is now becoming vocal advocate of Hindutva, which is not surprising because if you go back into Bengal's history,
Yeah.
Shyama Prasad Mukherjee,
Which is not surprising because
Arvindo Tagore, they
yes,
were all part of Bhadralok.
yes, Shyama Prasad Mukherjee was a Bhadralok.
Yeah. So
Bankim
what
Chandra
is happening
Chattopadhyay was
today
a
in the
Bhadralok.
Bhadralok? Is Bhadralok also splitting into two?
Bhadralok has split into two. It's really bad in Kolkata right now to have a civil discussion like we are having you and I, because it has gone down. Bhadraloks are name calling each other, cancelling out people they don't agree with politically, and deleting names from WhatsApp groups, unfriending on Facebook, unfollowing on Twitter. All of those things are happening. But worse is name calling. Like all kinds of
Did it
things are
happen
being
with
said.
you as well?
Memes are being made. It happened when I wrote Blood Island. I lost most of my friends from childhood and from college and university. I asked, and how I know is, of course, you see a dip in your friends, in a number of friends you have, but also many of them did me the courtesy of telling me before unfriending me. They would send me a message before unfriending me where they said that we can't be friends with you anymore. So some of them I engaged with saying, but you knew this is true. But their what they had to say was that, so what, it is true. I mean, this will you are playing into the wrong hands by writing this book. So even now, some of them, even recently, some of them said that a very interesting comment by someone said that this book is produced by the BJP. So no one can produce a book, you can publish a book, but that apart, I didn't even know anybody from the BJP when I started writing the book. Even when even when the book came out. But so it's very interesting how the counter question is that, are you being is your statement or your anger on Twitter and Facebook produced by, say, the Trinamool Congress or the CPM? But nobody asked that, so that question should also be put out.
But we have this Bhadralok now splitting into two, just like the Bengali cinema. You have lots of cine stars contesting, which is also unique, which is very much like Tamil Nadu, that cinema stars have disproportionate say, or not say, let's say, the influence in the politics. What is that phenomenon in Bengal?
This would so traditionally, as far back as I can remember, people had it's not as if they did big film stars did not have political views. Some of them were vocal also. For instance, Soumitra Chatterjee was left and he didn't hide it, but he did a very interesting film called Atonko, where he played this aging school teacher who sees a political murder and he wants to report that murder, and what happens to him and his family, how they are harassed by political goons. One of them happens to be his former student. So when you set it in, say, a Bengal milieu, and when so who are you actually referring to? You are referring to the government in power. And here was Soumitra Chatterjee, who was a leftist, but he did not only did he do the film, he played the lead part, which was of course very critical of the powers that be. And who are the powers that be? The left. So it was interesting in that sense. But I think more recently, when Mimi Chakravarti and Nusrat Jahan became this overnight sensations, politically, suddenly they won from their constituencies and came to Rajya Sabha, and those photo ops. Even in Delhi, people were taking their pictures because they were dressed differently, and there's import of glamour from Kolkata. And Trinamool, I think people started looking at Tollywood more seriously. So Mamata Banerjee had invited a posse of stars from Tollywood into her party, and the BJP, I think, soon caught up, and they also, before the elections, they also started getting stars. There is this phenomenon called macha in Bengal. So in rural Bengal, you take a big star. And I was talking to one just before coming to your show on WhatsApp. I was talking to one of them, Tanushri Chakravarti, who's just fought her election with a BJP ticket. So there is this thing called macha, where you have a makeshift stage, in a field, in a village, and you sell tickets and you call these big stars. and they dance to to your favorite songs, and they mouth a few dialogues, and the large number of people. So the stars also earn a lot of money. So if you have a rural seat, for instance, and if you put up a star, okay, from say Tollywood, who's popular, it's like a matcha, it's like a never-ending matcha till elections. So they are very popular. Like for instance, let me tell you, because I stay in Jadavpur. When Mimi Chakraborty was given a ticket, a lot of people, including my parents who stay in Jadavpur, said that she's going to lose. But there is an underclass in Jadavpur that you don't talk about. Jadavpur is not Jadavpur University and the region in and around it. So there's an underclass in Jadavpur also. There's maybe a lower middle class who are very enthused to see Mimi Chakraborty. So even if there is a candidate from another party who has come up with better promises, the sheer glamour factor makes her win it. So that you can't sort of ignore. So I think so. It's interesting. Now BJP has stars, Trinamool has stars. Stars are fighting each other. So
But
it's very interesting.
What about Saurabh Ganguly? उनका क्या? पूरा देश इंतजार कर रहा है कि कब भाजपा ज्वाइन करेंगे.
अब तो क्या ही है, because I think now I don't think for this election. I don't think they need him anymore. He's a great star. He's a big star. One of Bengal's biggest icons. So I'm sure he will.
But you pointed out something very interesting, Deep, that there's an underclass which is not talked about, and they might swing the election this time. Like you write, Choto Lok versus Bhadro Lok.
Bhadro Lok, yes.
So what about this Choto Lok? Suddenly we see that this entire facade of Bengal politics and society is collapsing under the assertion by the Choto Lok.
Yeah. So this has been written about. This is being talked about. It's very interesting that a party, Abhinav, which is often attacked, till now attacked as a Manuvadi party, how they, and not just this was the most interesting part of my research into how BJP, RSS have worked in Bengal. So it's not a recent phenomenon. I mean, BJP's political rise in Bengal may be recent, but the RSS has for long worked among the underclass in Bengal, and various wings of the RSS. So it is only now that the BJP is utilizing that work for its political gain, electoral gain. But I mentioned it in the book about a meeting that Sunil Devadhar had in Kolkata, and he had come from a tour of Bengal, rural Bengal, and he was sitting with a few workers of the party and also a few influencers from social media, and he was tired. So, but he still sort of encouraged people to speak. So one young man asked him that, "Sir, when will Ram Mandir be built?" So this was a few years ago. So he said, "Listen, don't worry about that. There are people, very capable people working on that, but I want you to do something else." So this gentleman says that, "What is it, sir? Tell me, I'll do it." He said, "You go back to your village," and he knew where this guy comes from. He says, "You go back to your village, and in your village, the Dalit Basti is on the other side of the river. So I want you to cross the river, to go to that side of the village, and to eat at their homes, not as a one-time thing, but make it a regular practice. And you encourage them also to cross the river, come to this side where the so-called upper caste stay, and you encourage them to have friends with, to be friends with each other, to be close to each other, to eat in each other's home." So the division that physically the river has been used to do, this side upper caste stay, that side of the river the lower caste stay, you basically finish off this division. If you can do that, then just know that you would have done something for the party for a whole lifetime. So imagine, so in this way and in many other ways, the RSS and the BJP have been working among the lower castes. So the it's not overnight that, see, Mamata Banerjee, don't forget, it's not BJP who had brought in caste as a factor. Mamata Banerjee had also done it, but Mamata Banerjee did it in the sense of introducing a lot of commissions, boards. Last September, for instance, she had a Dalit Sahitya Academy, whose chairperson is my friend Manoranjan Bapari. the gentleman who was a Naxal and a rickshaw puller and then a writer. Manoranjan is also fighting this elections in a Trinamool ticket. So Mamata Banerjee did all this, but I think BJP and the RSS, they played a deeper game for a longer period of time. They actually worked among these people and became one with them, and not for immediate political gain. So which is interesting, because a party which is called a Brahman Baniya party and Manuvadi, it's somebody wrote, and I found it very interesting. I saw it. I read it somewhere that it's Hindutva 2.0. How
I have been saying that for very long.
Yes, you have been saying it for very long. But I think in Bengal, you saw if the BJP were to, like you said, sweep the elections, this is definitely one of the factors that needs to be talked about more.
Yep.
So it's not just it's not just promises that I'll give citizenship to Mutwas, or I'll include this particular subcaste under this section. It's not just that; it's way more. It's working the ground for a really long period of time, which RSS doesn't talk about it, but which actually has happened in Bengal.
Exactly. So we have seen a recent book by Professor Badri Narayan, The Republic of Hindutva, where he spoke about these things. But you brought in Hindutva, and you have brought in Hindutva 2.0, which has been talked about many people, including myself, for the last several years. And many people are pointing out in this election that Bengal is now presenting a completely new model of Hindutva, where Hindutva is bottom-driven rather than top-driven. So you have the subaltern castes and the communities which are driving the Hindutva, which brings us it's the homecoming of Hindutva, basically, because from Bankim Chand Chatterjee, everything, it started from there. What is the appeal of Hindutva in Bengal? Is it just anti-Muslim, or is it about, as you're saying, creating a broader social unity? Basically, is it a positive construct or it is a negative construct in Bengal?
It depends on who you are speaking to. I think Hindutva is still looked at as a very problematic idea in certain sections of Kolkata, I would say, if not perhaps other places in Bengal. You only have to look at Twitter and Facebook to see how sort of people still talk about Hindutva. But I think, like for instance, Jai Shri Ram is like it's like a protest cry in Bengal. It's a protest against a particular regime. It's a protest against injustice, more than a sort of religious slogan. But I think it's not I think in large swaths of Bengal, so the fact that there is no religiosity in Bengal is wrong. This lie has been fed for many years. Because of 34 years of left, what has happened is, people like you and me who were born and bred in Kolkata, perhaps it was fashionable also to not talk about religion and to sort of talk about, say, Durga Puja as some sort of a carnival. It's more a social gathering rather than a religious festival, But outside, people were aware of their religion. People had their religious practices. Okay, so when we say that Bengal had no religion, we are basically talking about certain parts of Kolkata which was to some extent maybe atheist or agnostic. Also, it suited a particular political ideology, or even if they sort of participated in Durga Puja, like I said, it was very carnivalish. But in large parts of Bengal, religiosity remained. So I think what Hindutva has done in the last few years is given a certain kind of shape to it, because you couldn't express it outside your homes or puja pandals before. Now I think you are taking pride in it. Your other question, whether it's essentially, I hope not. I think that's a very limited. It would be very limited to just say that Hindutva is defined by it's an anti-Muslim stand. Like for instance, I had thought, and I had said this before, that there would be unthinkable communal violence before the election. It hasn't happened. There is violence, but it's political violence. It's not necessarily communal violence. Like Hindus and Muslims have not sort of attacked each other with swords and daggers. So to say that it is necessarily a anti-Muslim construct in Bengal is not perhaps true. I think it's more an assertion of your religious identity, which was not fashionable before to do.
It's basically the Jai Shri Ram has become the slogan of resistance of the people.
Yes.
Right, because you were trying to suppress that religion, and basically this whole fake argument that Jai Shri Ram does not belong to Bengal.
Example, for instance, if you were there, you must have seen that story of Azan being played from a particular Durga Puja pandal in
a
few years ago. You read the story. There was a long debate. Now that's a very Kolkata thing. I'm not getting into whether it was right or wrong. So it was a very Kolkata thing. So some people may agree to it, some people may object to it. But outside Kolkata, for instance, if you are stopping a Durga Puja Visarjan date, Durga Puja Visarjan and shifting the date because you have Muharram, it's a big thing. So somebody with a very urbane sensibility, who perhaps accepts or even sort of debates Azan being played or not played from a puja pandal would not understand, how it feels to be a Hindu outside Kolkata, for whom it's a big deal to not have the procession because another religious procession have to be accommodated. So that's what I'm getting.
Yeah, and also this attempt to whitewash the Bengal's religious history by saying Ram does not belong to Bengal somehow, and it's only Durga who belongs to. But the reality is that oldest records, written records, archaeological records are Vaishnavite in Bengal. How can we say that Ram and Vaishnavism does not belong to Bengal? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a Bengali.
There's a 300-year-old Ram temple right outside Kolkata. Where did it come from?
So now let's move on to some other thing. Where is Congress in this election? We haven't seen Priyanka Gandhi and the BJP's star campaigner Rahul Gandhi campaigning in Bengal.
I think Congress has sort of realized that they have no skin in the game in Bengal. So I think they have gone to Kerala. Rahul Gandhi spent a lot of time there. I think they're concentrating on Assam. They're anticipating some trouble in the BJP camp there. So I think they have sort of thought that Bengal is a
Bengal is not Bengal.
Yes, Bengal is not something.
And that's a 40-year-long surrender because they surrendered in the 70s itself.
Yes, I mean, first left and then Trinamool Congress, and their brightest star at one point of time was Mamata Banerjee herself. She came from the Congress.
Yeah, true. So Congress is written off. What about the left? We see that violence-accused JNU president is also campaigning in Bengal. She's also
No, I have to actually see
Aishi Ghosh, I guess,
Aishi Ghosh, I have to see actually how the left does, because let me tell you, the left has done something interesting in this election, which is it has fielded a lot of young faces. Okay, so left had all these old people. So, but for this election, it has fielded a significant amount of young faces. Also, let me tell you another thing. After Amphan and during Corona, at some parts in Kolkata and outside, even in the interiors, left activists actually did some work. Okay, like right after Amphan, I remember Dilip Ghosh, when he wanted to move out of his locality and go and see the damage and go and help people, he was stopped. So he was not allowed to go out to sort of offer relief. But perhaps because Mamata Banerjee felt that there is no political threat from the left, I think the left activists were not stopped. So they actually went and did some work. Right. So I would not be surprised if the left does decently well in this election, if they actually manage to win a few seats.
Interesting. But what about the allies of the left, these Islamists, Islamic Orthodox people like Furfura Sharif? What about we see a new kind of Hindutva politics in Bengal. We also see a new kind of Muslim politics in Bengal, that they are creating their own party, a religious party, which is now contesting on an equal footing with the Congress and the communists.
Yeah.
What about the Muslims?
I think the Muslims are divided, because I think the Furfura Sharif gentleman, some of the statements that he makes is even a lot of Muslims in Bengal would find rather objectionable. So I think they are extremely divided, and I won't go as far as to say what the Muslim gentleman from the viral picture with the Prime Minister had to say about the Prime Minister and to his fellow Muslims, his great love for Mr. Modi, and also his appeal to his fellow Muslims to not always criticize Modi and to see the bright side. So I won't go as far as to say that, but I think they are. To consider the Muslims of Bengal as a homogeneous entity would not be right. I think some of the things Suraj Sharif gentleman is saying is extremely, like I said, extremely objectionable to a lot of Muslims that I've spoke to in and around Kolkata. So they're not going to vote as a bloc.
So you're saying that Muslims are also divided in the sense that
yes. Even without this, I think there is a sense of Muslims who are originally from here and the infiltrators who are coming, because I don't think they immediately, just because of religion, they identify with them or agree to them.
Interesting point. So will they or will they not vote for the TMC in bloc?
See, I think BJP still needs to do some work, a lot of work rather, to convince the large portions of the Muslim population in the country. Same holds true for Bengal. But while I was talking to people from the Muslim community for the book, a lot of people told me that they do not agree with the minority appeasement politics of Mamata Banerjee, or for that matter, anybody. They said that it's, the fact that she says she once referred to them as milch cows is extremely problematic. And she says, please do not do anything for us. But for the community, do not give doles to imams and don't do all this. But, in every, irrespective of what kind of locality it is, open primary health centers, open health centers, open primary schools, bring sanitation in Muslim areas, do all this. So we do not want appeasement. So which is a interesting change.
And what about the Modi factor in Bengal? We are seeing massive rallies.
Massive support. Yes.
Whenever Modi visits Bengal, it's a next level euphoria, and something which was not anticipated, or no one would have believed 2 or 3 years back that this is going to happen in Bengal. What is this Modi factor all about in Bengal?
It's like almost anywhere else in most of the country. I think his superstardom, if I can use the word for him, I think has swayed Bengal also. People who dislike him continue to dislike him, continue to say so rather vocally, continue to see him as a hate monger and as a divisive figure. But I think what happens when they say such things, the other side gets together with more resolve. So even if there were certain things they did not agree with BJP, seeing this amount of hate against the Prime Minister, they get together and they forgive the BJP and think that no, we are going to stand by the party. So I think it's counterproductive when you write those kind of things and share those kind of memes. So it happens it's happening in Kolkata also. But you're seeing the crowd, you're seeing the madness around him.
So last 2 questions to you, Deep. One is about what this Bengali versus non-Bengali factor in West Bengal. You have lots of Marwadis in cities like Kolkata. You have lots of non-Bengalis from Assam, from Bihar, working as the laborers and other kind of people living in different parts of Bengal. What is that factor all about? Will that impact the election result or not?
If that impacts the election result, I think it will go against the Trinamool Congress. People have settled in Bengal and who are now suddenly hearing that they are outsiders. For instance, it is people who identify themselves as liberals. This is as illiberal as it gets. To the city itself, and this, our top businessmen and our very prized citizens are from the non-Bengali community, and many of them are as Bengali as as the rest of us. I, for instance, I'm not in Bengal anymore. I came out of the city and the state so long ago, right? I keep going back. My parents are there, but the point is, why would somebody who originally belonged to some other place be called a Bohiragato? be called an outsider just because he's a Marwadi or a Rajasthani or a UPite or a Bihari. It's extremely sad, and I think if one thing needs to change after May 2, it is this, to sort of be discriminated against. And there is also a sort of nativist movement in Bengal where non-Bengalis are being targeted. But this has a history. When I was growing up, even we had those biases. We were taught those biases. We grew up with those biases. We had pejorative terms for people who were non-Bengalis. For instance, I don't think anybody refers to, in any other place, anybody says that there are Bengalis and non-Bengalis. You don't say that there are UPites and non-UPites. I think it's also a very Bengali thing
certainly
to cancel
not
out others by saying there are non-this. So it's also a very, very Bengali thing to do. But I think if we pride ourselves for saying, on the one hand, that Kolkata is so cosmopolitan, on the other, we are discriminating against people because they speak a different tongue, and many of them don't even speak a different tongue. I have friends from other communities who are extremely fluent in Bangla. They have adapted to our culture. They have married into Bengali homes, and they're producing Bengali films. So some of my closest friends are quote unquote non-Bengalis. But to suddenly see this, but like I said, this is not a new thing. I mean, politically, I think Bohiragato term is new, but I think this has a history. I remember back in childhood, by the time we grew up, it was better. But back in childhood, we used to look at people from other places with a certain kind of prejudice.
And my last question to you is about the Gorkha areas. What is happening there in this election? We have had a history of demand for Gorkha land to be separated from rest of the Bengal. What is the dynamics out there? Because we normally don't hear much about those districts.
We don't, because I think whichever government has been in power, right from the Subhash Gishing's time, whichever government has been in power has tried to push it under the carpet. But I think the demand for Gorkha land will be there from time to time. It's a very potent demand for a separate state. So I don't think that is going to go away. Mamata Banerjee thought when she came to power that she had managed, the Gorkha leaders to a certain extent before it fell apart. So I think before a permanent solution is reached, I think this will keep coming up. This election won't solve it.
So which way that vote will go? BJP or TMC or their own party?
It's too complex sort of to point out. It may sort of Mamata Banerjee. So it may impact it may sort of work out in favor of the BJP, but it's a problem way beyond an election result,
Yeah.
Because whoever comes to power will have to deal with this. So this and until now it has not been dealt with properly.
Yeah.
It has been the issue and the sentiment has been managed.
So basically, what this election is going to do in the nutshell is to demolish this whole image of Bengali exceptionalism. That Bengal Absolutely. Is not just like another place in India. The same kind of fault lines of caste, class, communities, different problems. It's no longer that Bhadralok dominated culture which is being projected to the rest of the India.
Absolutely. And this election is an election where the whole of Bengal in a certain sense is speaking up. There's a lot of noise because everybody is speaking up, and you may not be liking some of what you're hearing, but the narrative is not being controlled anymore.
Interesting.
In Dilip Ghosh himself, and he's a very polarizing figure in Kolkata, especially. In Dilip Ghosh himself, some of the things he says has shaken up Kolkata like never before.
So basically, there is a democratization going on in Bengal, just like what happened in UP in the 90s, perhaps.
Yes.
So thank you, Deep, for talking to us, and thank you, audience, for listening to us.
Thank you.
Please do refer to his book. This is an excellent book, a short read, but it gives you lots of great insights. An Election Diary by Deep Haldar. Thank you, Deep.
Thank you.
And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and join the channel. See you soon.